regular listener to the show, you'll know that at this point, we love to talk to people with just really amazing stories. It can be anything from, spoke to a guy earlier on in the week who'd trekked 225 kilometres in the Amazon jungle, and we specialise in having inspiring people, and Sue, who's joining me in the studio today, is one of those fantastic people. Sue, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Suzanne, it's lovely to be here.
So you got in touch with us because you've recorded a CD, and there's nothing particularly unusual in that, but it's a really, really special CD for you, and a really important motivation for you.
Absolutely, yes. We sadly lost our son, William, about 2.5 years ago now, when he was aged just 7, from a very rare brain tumour. And we have been in music on a semi-professional basis for a long time. And we decided that the best way we could send our tribute to him, really, would be to write something in his memory that would potentially make some money for some amazing charities. So that was our motivation behind it.
So it's been an ongoing project now for a couple of years.
It certainly has. Literally 2 years it's taken us to write and record it.
And we're going to play a song off it a bit later. So is this going to be, the first exclusive play on the BBC?
It certainly is.
Fantastic.
Yes, we hope for many more plays.
Absolutely. I hope you're all listening. But if it's all right, we're going to hear a bit about William and how you came to know him, because he wasn't your birth son, although I'm sure you absolutely felt like he was.
Yes, correct. Yes, and we adopted him when he was 18 months old back in 2001. And he absolutely did feel like our birth son. He was an incredible little boy. And from the day we met him, it was love at first sight. It was incredible.
So you couldn't have children of your own, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
How long were you trying for?
We tried for around 7 years.
It's about the same as my sister.
Yeah, to no avail, really. And, you go through everything, all the IVF, etc.
Which is so stressful. And so sort of the hormones, and it's kind of the ups and downs of it, and is it going to work, isn't it going to work? How did you find that?
You're absolutely right. It's incredibly stressful, and your emotions are up and down like a yo-yo. 1 minute hopeful, the next minute completely, in despair because it's not worked, etc. But I think Mark and I, my husband, we always knew that if we couldn't conceive naturally or through IVF, that we would always look at the adoption route. It was always something that we knew that would be our next step. So we never felt that IVF was the end, really.
You never felt like you were never going to have children.
No.
So that is a twisty, turny, tumultuous path, adoption, because it is. It sounds quite simple. They investigate your friends, don't they? They talk to your boss. They have to know how much is in your bank accounts. They come and look at your house. I know for my sister, they had to redesign their garden. Because there was something they didn't like in there. Was it straightforward to get to adopt William?
No, again, you're absolutely right. They do investigate everything. It's obviously social workers. They have to really understand you as a couple, and make sure that they're placing any children they place with appropriate people. So there's a lot of investigation to be done, and at times you do feel, your whole life is being invaded, right? Really, and there is no privacy at all. But I think you just keep your eyes on the end game, really, and know that that's where you're heading, and that all of that will be worth it, really.
And how did you first find out or hear about William?
It literally was through our social workers sending us a profile through the post.
And if you haven't seen these are really, it's very odd, because it's a bit like how shopping for houses, when you look at the profile of a house and it says it's 3 bedrooms, and they really are quite like that when they come through the post.
Yes, they are. You get very basic information, and it's very black and white, and certainly way back then in 2001, you didn't even have a photograph of the child.
Not even a photo.
No. Whereas now that's all changed. But then there was no photograph either. So you were working purely on what you read on the page.
And did you know from reading, did you have any kind of feeling that he was going to be your son?
Absolutely.
You did?
Straight away, both of us did. We read it separately, and as soon as we discussed it together, we knew. And it was funny because our social worker said that would happen.
Really? Even though she wouldn't have known necessarily?
No. She said, when you read the right profile, you'll know.
And that was it?
Yeah.
And do you remember the first time you met him?
Oh, crikey. I remember it was in the school holidays of 2001.
And he was quite young at the time.
He was only 18 months old, so we went to visit him at his foster home. And I can remember it exactly walking into the lounge, and he actually wasn't in the room, he was in the garden.
Were you nervous?
Incredibly nervous, just because it's such, it's a life-changing event. It's your future child. And, he was in the garden, and he toddled in his nappy and T-shirt. And it was just amazing, just brilliant feeling. Can't describe it really. It's one of those things that unless you're there and you're experiencing it, it's hard to put into words really how you feel. It's just all encompassing really. It just takes you over.
And you have to get to know them. You have to come back and see them again, and then eventually comes the big day when you can take them back to your house.
Yes.
And suddenly you're in the house with this, child. How was that for you guys?
Completely overwhelming. You think you're prepared, you think you're ready, and I guess this is exactly the same for a person having a birth child. You're prepared as best you can. You've got all these great ideas on how you think you're going to parent, and then this child's there, and everything goes out the window basically.
Yeah. Ideas about dummies and snacks and all of that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, you're right. Completely go out of the window. Tell us a bit about William. What was he like?
He was an incredibly funny, beautiful boy, very gorgeous looking little man with big brown eyes and olive skin.
And he did a bit of modelling.
He did do a bit of modelling. He was a bit of a star in that department, and appeared in a couple of little TV commercials and things, and absolutely loved doing that. But he was a natural mimic, very funny, very sporty little man too. He was very good at football and tennis, and very active. Certainly kept me fit.
And you became, I guess the thing is, you become an instant mum straight away. And my sister's adopted, and the amazing thing about it is that there's no difference. There's no difference. You're a mum like anybody else, and you're just as proud and just as excited as anybody else would have been. And you must have been so proud of him when he did his modelling and all of his, TV commercials and that sort of thing.
Incredibly so. You just sit there, his little school plays or whatever it was, you just sit there and think, I'm his mum. I'm the luckiest person in the world. So you just being a parent is just such an incredible privilege. And whether it's your adoptive pet child or your birth child, it's amazing.
But unfortunately, it didn't stay like that for William. You are here because you've recorded this CD in memory of him, and we will hear a bit more about his incredibly brave battle against this brain tumour. But we always ask people to pick a song. You've picked a fantastic tune, Tina Turner, River Deep, Mountain High. Why have you picked this one?
Purely because I'm a bit of a rock chick at heart.
Me too.
And so really throughout all my live performances over the last 20 odd years, it's really where my heart lies, I guess. And there's nothing like belting out a good rock tune. And this particular one, obviously Tina does it amazingly, brilliantly. But I've always really enjoyed having a go at it myself. So
I'd like to hear that too. Good afternoon, just gone 3:30. It's me, Suzanne Courtney, in for Sarah Walker here on BBC Radio Berkshire. And in the studio with me is Sue De Silva. Sue is from Hook, and she's coming to see me today to share her story and the story of her son, William. She lost her son to a very, very rare brain tumour. When was it? How many years ago now?
2007.
2007.
Yeah.
And you've come in to see us because you've recorded an album of songs to help you and your husband, I guess, I don't know if get through it's the right way of saying it, process it really.
Yeah, I mean, initially our ideas for writing it were really just as a tribute to Will, a legacy for him to try and raise some serious money for some charities. But it certainly became a way of working through it, and it was a tremendous healing tool. It really helped us an awful lot along the way.
So we were just hearing about William, who you adopted in 2001, and the fact that he was a bit of a model and a bit of an actor and a bit cheeky and very bright and, athletic too. But it was just very little things at first that made you realise that maybe something wasn't right.
Yeah, absolutely. Literally, out of nowhere, across a period of about a week, we started to notice very slight changes in him, very, very subtle things like he wouldn't grip our hand if he was using his right hand. It was like he had no grip.